How hydrogen cars are taking over electric cars. Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel, Tech Luxe Zone. Hydrogen is the most abundant element on the planet, and having powered engines as long ago as 1807. It's also the cleanest kind of fuel there is. However, hydrogen hasn't really taken off in the world of motoring. Lots of manufacturers have experimented with the technology, and while some have committed to producing hydrogen-powered vehicles in small numbers, mass uptake still looks a long way off, if it even happens at all. In this video, we will talk about how hydrogen cars are taking over electric cars. Have a look. If you like our video, don't forget to like and share it with your friends and family. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You may know about LPG, liquid petroleum gas, cars, but hydrogen-powered cars are very different and are much closer to being electric cars since there's no internal combustion engine in the car at all. Instead, there's a fuel cell, which generates electricity using hydrogen. But more on that later. Hydrogen cars just need to be filled up with hydrogen at a pump, and the only tailpipe emission is H2O. Yeah, just water. As hydrogen is the most common element in the universe, it's not likely to run out like petrol or diesel will. Hydrogen cars are rare now, but this may change in the future. And as more appear on the roads, you'll want to know more about them so that you can compare them with a future electric car. After all, from 2025 in the UK, you won't be able to buy a new car that doesn't feature an electric motor. How does a hydrogen fuel cell work? Let's start with the short version and move on to a more technical description. As the driver of a hydrogen car, just like with a petrol or diesel car, you don't need to know much more than this. You put hydrogen in using a fuel pump at a filling station, which is used as fuel to generate electricity. This electricity is used to power the wheels. Now for the long version. When you put hydrogen in the car, it's stored in a secure fuel tank like petrol or diesel is. It's fed into the fuel cell, which is what generates the electricity. It uses chemistry to combine hydrogen and air, oxygen, and generate electricity. Inside the fuel cell is a liquid with a positively charged anode on one side and a negatively charged cathode on the other, a bit like a battery. In this cell, hydrogen atoms split into protons and electrons, the former turning into exhaust product, pure water, and the latter providing the power for the car's electric motor. Like a battery pack, there are lots of smaller reactions happening in the fuel cell to provide plenty of power for the motors. There's a battery on board too, which saves power for later, usually when you're accelerating and more power is needed. However, the fuel cell often sends power directly to the motors. Are hydrogen cars better? The battery has continued its triumphant march for many years. More and more devices, such as automobiles, light-up trainers for children, and even cars, are equipped with them. Electric and hybrid vehicles are slowly starting to dominate the streets with the full support of governments and a growing contingent of consumers due to their presumed green credentials. From a sustainability standpoint, the question remains whether battery technology for cars is greener and therefore better. Is such unilateral support for electric vehicles justified, or should we be focusing our attention on hydrogen to power our vehicles in the future? Both the fuel cell, platinum, rhenium, and the batteries, cobalt, lithium, need rare minerals. Platinum, ruthenium, and cobalt are usually mined as byproducts of copper and nickel. This type of production leaves large craters on the Earth and degrades the environment. The largest lithium deposits are located in the so-called lithium triangle between Bolivia, Argentina, and Chile. In Chile's Atacama Desert, where 3 salt lakes form a huge lithium reservoir. To produce lithium, the groundwater, rich in minerals like brine, is pumped into massive artificially created basins for targeted evaporation. The extraction of the brine from the groundwater causes the groundwater level to drop and dries up the riverbeds and surrounding farms and wetlands. Farms and grazing lands are lost, rare bird species threatened, and mangroves that characterize this ecosystem are drastically altered. The local, mostly indigenous population suffers from the degradation, loss of land, and lack of water. The weight of the battery in an electric vehicle, which weighs several hundred kilograms, is a clear disadvantage. The weight of battery-driven vehicles reduces the range and is exacerbated whenever electric vehicle owners drive a mix of short city and long distances. The most efficient in this case should be two separate vehicles for short and long distances, which is absolutely not sustainable. Hydrogen versus battery vehicles. Several pilot recycling technologies exist for used batteries of electric vehicles. One possibility is to shred the vehicle battery into small pieces with subsequent treatments in acid baths, where the resulting oxides and salts can be used to build new batteries. Cobalt and nickel form an alloy that can be reused. Another problem for battery-operated vehicles is the transport chain for batteries in case of damage to the vehicle. There is still a lot of research necessary in order to have a sustainable treatment for used car batteries. But also, the sustainable process to win high-quality materials back from an old fuel cell is currently under development, with the only surplus of that big mass of used fuel cells will come only in a few years. With the mass rollout of new renewable generation units, such as solar panels and windmills, consumers should adapt their demand according to the availability of electricity. This is possible with hydrogen-based production on electrolysis and its accompanying flexibility. Hydrogen will only be produced whenever there's enough solar irradiation or wind available. The electricity to charge a battery, on the contrary, has to be instantaneously produced, which does not support the energy revolution. With an increasing number of electric vehicles, charging a number of vehicles at the same time will result in grid capacity challenge. The economic solution will be different prices for instantaneous and slow charging. The technical remedy is either a rollout of a smart grid technology or a massive extension of the existing grid infrastructure, but both solutions will be extremely expensive. Hydrogen-powered cars are expected to make up a large proportion of the vehicles on our roads in the future. By 2030, hydrogen could be the fuel that runs 10 million cars. But for now, the number of fuel cell-run EVs is limited. Although hydrogen is an easily available fuel, there are still very few hydrogen stations. Hydrogen fuel cells technology needs to be developed at a quicker pace than that of lithium-ion batteries. It may be practical to use hydrogen for trucks and buses now, and for long distances in a few years. At the moment, batteries outperform fuel cells in terms of cost and infrastructure development for large-scale implementation. The costs of fuel cells, hydrogen tanks, and hydrogen fuel have meant hydrogen-run EVs are costly, making battery-operated cars the preferred sustainable transportation option for now. Nevertheless, hydrogen will significantly impact process in transport electrification and as an electromobility fuel. Hydrogen is not just a fuel, but more a universal carrier and a way to store energy. It can retain energy surpluses generated during the night when electricity demand is low or from renewable sources. It is not a substitute for fossil fuels, but is the perfect inclusion of conventional emission sources being replaced by emission-free renewables. It will also solve the problem of long-distance energy transmission. Hydrogen will also have many economic benefits beyond the transportation sector. It is also highly anticipated as a simple and cost-effective way to store solar and wind energy. Electromobility is the future of transportation. Over time, the cost of producing lithium-ion batteries and hydrogen fuel cells will need to be reduced such that EVs are affordable for all and can quickly replace traditional internal combustion engines. Hydrogen fuel cells are unlikely to be the single successor to internal combustion engines, but will power the turn to EVs alongside lithium-ion batteries. They can enable the electrification of those segments of such transport sector where the use of heavy batteries would be too expensive or even impossible, such as trains or heavy trucks. However, with hydrogen already being used in an increasing number of areas, such as the chemical industry, It should not just be seen as fuel for cars for the future, but as a universal, fuel-oriented energy carrier that, when used properly, will help maintain carbon neutrality. If you like our video, don't forget to like and share it with your friends and family. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.